Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George Wolf. I'm Lower Paxton Township's manager, and I will briefly summarize tonight's business meeting as the supervisors take the podium to conduct business. There are two items of old business this evening. Both are change orders. Change order number one, both are numbered. They're with the contract between the township and Appalachian Technology. One is for wireless service installation at this municipal center. The other is for wireless service installation at the Public Works and Sewer facilities. Both change orders are for additional hardware. Under new business, there is a resolution authorizing the destruction of specified municipal records. Then there is a resolution authorizing the submission of an application for Dauphin County Local Share Municipal Grant, supporting the Heroes Grove project in Brightville Park and Brightville Park improvements. Under subdivision and land development, there is the final subdivision plan for Stray Winds Farm Phase 5B. There's the preliminary final subdivision plan for 724 Hampton Court Road. There is Resolution 1827 accepting the dedication of streets in Stray Winds Farm Phase 2. After that, the board will act on improvement guarantees and pay bills. Ladies and gentlemen, that completes my summary of tonight's business meeting agenda. The supervisors are at the podium and ready to conduct business.
I would like to call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. If everyone could please stand, Mr. Judd will lead us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to change the order of the agenda before we begin the meeting. We're all aware that a longtime board member, Bill Hawk, passed away on early on Saturday morning, and I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk a bit about Bill's legacy and what he has done for Lower Paxton Township during his many, many years of service as chairman of this board for most of the time that he served in office. Bill held the office of Township Supervisor since January 1 of 1996. He served as chairman of this board and as chairman of the Township Authority. And at the time of Bill's passing on Saturday, he was secretary of our Board of Supervisors. Bill served as a member of the executive board of the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, holding multiple board offices. Back in April, we were all at the PSATS convention, and we had the opportunity to see Bill achieve what had been a goal of his for many, many years, which was to become president of the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors. Bill is the first supervisor from Lower Paxton Township to ever hold that office. And we deeply regret the fact that his presidency only lasted a couple of months. Bill served on the State Planning Board and on the Governor's Advisory Committee. As you can see, Bill had an impact far beyond the boundaries of our great community. As a supervisor here, Bill was actively involved in the development of our Friendship Center. He worked to resolve sanitary sewer and transportation issues. He shared his wisdom on the implementation of the comprehensive plan and the update of our zoning ordinances. Bill's background in municipal finance was invaluable as our township undertook multiple capital improvement and public infrastructure projects. In addition to serving our community as a township supervisor, Bill was very actively engaged in our community. He served as president of our Rotary Club. He served as chairman of the Lower Paxton Township Republican Committee for many years. He was a member of all Masonic organizations, and Bill was a Dale Carnegie instructor for over 30 years. A graduate of John Harris High School and Lebanon Valley College. Bill and his wife, Billy, founded the Hawk Gallery and Framing Studio, which they operated for over 20 years. Bill and Billy have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. He was a member of the Faith Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, where he, of course, was active on the church board. Bill's funeral services will be held on Thursday morning at the Faith Emmanuel Lutheran Church, Faith Emmanuel Presbyterian Church over on Colonial Road. So at this point, I would like us all to take a moment of silence and reflect on the life of community service that Bill Hawk lived and all of the tremendous service that he provided we, the citizens of Lower Paxton Township. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. And with that, we will do what Bill, I'm certain, would want us to do, which is carry on. And that we shall do. So let's begin with the approval of minutes from the meeting of March 13th, 2018. Can we have a motion, please, to approve those minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the minutes of March the 13th, 2018 as prepared and circulated.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Before we have public comment, I would like to announce that prior to this meeting, the Board of Supervisors met in executive session. We received information from the township manager predominantly on scheduling matters, most notably plans for honoring Supervisor Hawk during his funeral service on Thursday. And with that, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the board on a matter that is not on the agenda this evening? Please come to the podium. Yes, it is.
Good evening. It's been a while since I've seen everyone. It's nice to be back.
Could we have your name and address, please?
You can. Katie Scheib, 131 Oak Park Road, right here in Lower Paxton Township. So one of the reasons I'm standing here is I wanted to thank the Board of Supervisors for considering my application and subsequently appointing me to the Greenway Committee earlier this year. After attending several committee meetings, I can readily say that it's a great group to interact with, and I'm sure it will continue to be a pleasure to serve with them. Also, I'd like to commend Terry Balknight, the Township's committee liaison, for the commitment and dedication that she brings to the committee. Last weekend, as a result of my new Greenway connections, I had the pleasure of assisting with the Arts and Parks Red Hot 5K event, working alongside fellow Greenway committee member who's here tonight and Planning Commission member Jeff Klein and his wife Brenda at the pre-registration table. I have to say it was extremely fun and energizing to connect with so many enthusiastic runners at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday. So hats off to everybody that organized that event. Finally, I did want to remind the supervisors and the general public that tomorrow's regularly scheduled Greenway meeting, which is normally held at the Friendship Center, has been advertised as being moved to 131 Oak Park Road, which coincidentally just happens to be my house. The committee intends to conduct a regular meeting that includes, weather permitting, a field trip across the street to the strip of property that the township purchased in 2017 that's currently being considered by the Pennsylvania DCNR for a proposed walking trail. I just wanted to make note that even though the meeting was moved, it is still a public meeting. All are welcome, and if you have any questions or need directions, you can contact the committee's liaison or you can see me after the meeting. So that was my primary reason for coming here tonight. Secondary, which was not part of what I had considered public comment, but I will take the opportunity to express my condolences to the family of Supervisor Hawk and also to everybody that worked with him for such a long time. Chairman Henry Lohman, certainly did outline Mr. Hawk's achievements. And along those lines, I did just want to say that I anticipate, and I could be incorrect, that tonight at some point you'll have to be discussing the unpleasant yet necessary protocol that the process that will be used to appoint an interim representative to fill Supervisor Hawk's vacant seat, since the window is limited. And while look forward is certainly not the right words to use at this time, I would like to convey that I am very interested in understanding and being informed of the appropriate time, method, and manner in which to express my interest in being considered for the appointment to that vacancy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Scheib. We do not believe it appropriate to discuss filling of the seat prior to Mr. Hawk's funeral. The funeral service is Thursday. So if anybody has an interest, they can provide a letter to the township office. Other than that, we believe that any discussion of this until the funeral service has been conducted is inappropriate. Do we have anybody else who would like to address the board? Yes, please come to the podium.
My name is Kathy Reardon. Hi, I live at 1111 Hannock Circle in Union Station at Shaybrook. And I was here last week and was part of the workshop meeting. Was wondering if we're going to have some follow-up information from that meeting from the developer about the warrant and the traffic study. That information was supposed to come.
Well, the traffic study is not going to be conducted until...
No. The 2016 study. He was supposed to
He
provide
did provide that, yes.
Did he?
Yes.
Okay. Will we have that, or
It's
is
a
there?
public document. You just come to the office anytime, we can make it for you.
Okay, great.
George, can we add that to the website, since there's such interest?
We can.
A place where we can...
That's the problem, finding a
An
place.
appropriate spot?
And it's a 2-year-old document.
Oh, it's not electronic?
No, it's electronic. It's very technical.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2-year-old, and I mean, I can put it
Someplace?
I was hoping there was a summary of it for tonight's meeting, and I guess I misunderstood last week. I thought that was going to be presented tonight. Someone was going to come forward and say, look, we got this. This is what we found. This is where we are percentage-wise away from being warranted. And then this is how we hope to proceed with the next study. And I know that's up to the developer to do the study, but my understanding at last week's meeting was that you were going to have some follow-up information for us at this meeting.
Well, the developer did provide us with information, and reading what he presented, the traffic study measured traffic flow at different times of the day.
Right.
And as I recall, we were under the numbers needed for warrant by like 170, 175 at some hours, and up to as many as 450
At other hours?
At other hours.
Okay. All right.
So
And that's what we were looking
the
for.
450 is sort of a lot.
That is a lot.
However, again, the study was conducted in 2016.
Right.
And now we've had significant development.
Right.
The developer, by the way, is very anxious to get the traffic signal
Oh,
installed. I mean,
we understand that.
We're all on the
yeah.
same page that we
Right,
want to
we
get
are.
this done.
Yeah. Right.
And the plan now is to conduct the next traffic study at the point right after school starts.
You're going to wait till school starts
yeah, 'cause
because
to
the
do it
numbers
before-
were not, okay, got it.
When you're off by 450 in
Right,
one of the
yeah, it's a
hours,
lot. Yeah.
you know, to not do it, if we did it before school started, it probably would show us not meeting warrant.
Right.
He would spend money to do it.
Right.
So we're only, what, 4 or 5 weeks away
Right.
from this. Sorry, parents, we're 4 or 5 weeks
7
away from
weeks,
the start of
actually.
school.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so we'll wait until school starts.
Okay.
As soon as school starts, he's going to do the next traffic study.
Okay.
And we hope that it meets warrant.
Great.
But that's where we are, depending on the time of day, about 170 to 450 off.
So maybe, may I suggest that maybe you just put something on the website that says it was addressed? I know this meeting is recorded.
Yes.
So, you know, you could even put a small splash that says, this item was addressed. It wasn't warranted back then by this much, because that's what people were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we hope to do is do the
Yeah,
study.
can we just
begin
get
school.
maybe Leanne to do a
Well,
summary or something?
That's an oversimplification.
I know that.
We know that.
No. But my problem with that is summarizing to say that it's over at this time, but not over at this time, is not how PennDOT views these things. And I'm afraid in summarizing it, I'll summarize it incorrectly for the purposes that we need, which is a traffic signal.
Okay, right, okay.
I can certainly
Understood.
put a summary of the process and what we are going to be
Okay,
doing.
that would be
That
helpful.
would be
But I
helpful.
think
Thank
we
you.
we were talking about finding out a rough estimate of how far away. That's what Robin had sought, and I think we made it.
Yes, but my problem is a rough estimate is not going to be a short statement. It's going to be a detailed analysis, which
Okay,
you'd need an engineer to explain and,
Okay. Well, only thing.
but I can summarize the process.
No, the only thing, I think we indicated that at some point, we will provide simply where we think we're at and where we need to be.
My expectation, board members, is that when the analysis is complete, it will certainly be submitted to the township's engineer, HRG, and be sent to their traffic division. Their traffic engineer will do an analysis, and our engineer and their engineer will both come to a board meeting to discuss the findings.
okay,
And I expect that will occur sometime after the traffic counts are made, which is
Right.
currently scheduled for the beginning of September.
okay, all right. Good.
That's
yeah,
the way we left it last week.
Right.
Okay.
But again, I
guess I expected it to be easier.
It is not easy. I sat and looked through, again, the 2016 study, and I mean, I've read them before, but they're not,
Not easy to interpret.
no.
Okay.
That's why I tried to simplify it as much as possible to give you some idea.
And that does, and people do understand that. So I think, you can say, this is why we didn't meet it. Overall, certainly we're hoping that we can meet it. I wish PennDOT was proactive, and we'll probably try to get to Mr. Marsico and say, look, this is what we need.
But see, that, PennDOT has its rules and regulations.
I
and
understand
however much Representative Marsico or Senator DeSanto would want to help, they can't change PennDOT regulations. So the bottom line is, we have to do a traffic study
Right.
that
No, I
meets
knew that.
warrant.
Right.
Can I ask, we've been talking about PennDOT and PennDOT. Can we bring PennDOT in here at some point?
There's not a real, I mean, there.
Why are we trying to explain this and justify it and?
Because their warrants are their warrants, and, I mean, they can come in, all they're gonna do is come in and tell us, this is the regulation, you need to meet it. That's all they're gonna say.
If you remember at the last meeting, I called the regulations up. They're not hard to find.
Okay.
And I read them off. They're very technically complicated to address.
Yes,
And PennDOT's response is, well, you have to meet them.
That's right.
Prove that you've met them. I'm going to stick up a little bit for the department in regard to this, in that the ability to put up install traffic signals on a proactive basis becomes somewhat nonsensical in the fact that we have multiple traffic signals in multiple intersections in Lower Paxton Township that someday will warrant a signal. To proactively do them all now, before the warrants are met, would mean that we're installing, I could easily say, 20 more traffic signals. We're operating, maintaining, and electrifying them
Right,
before they're really needed.
right.
And-
I guess with the school being there, I think the concern is very real for the residents, and some of our residents aren't that young anymore, so that's another issue. And the intersection is not a good, the intersection it's not a straight north, south, east, west. It has that curve off of it, so it's not an easy intersection. When you look to your right to come out and make a left, it is not conducive to sitting there and craning your neck. So I think there's extenuating circumstances, and I appreciate, what you're saying. So, thank you.
Mr. Judd called up the numbers. They're actually overly simplified. 122 to 355, which is better than 450.
Right.
So
That
some
is.
hours it's 122, some 355, but that's only part of a very complex formula.
Right. Okay.
So suffice it to say that
We may
we want to
not.
get this done.
Right.
We are 100% in agreement that we
Right.
want to get this done. The developers and it, no, there's.
Oh, I know. I think that's what makes
We're
it
all
right.
on the same
Everybody
page.
agrees that
Yep.
it's a shame that the developer is being held back because of PennDOT warrants. I understand. I know.
That, it's their highway, so.
Can't beat a dead dog.
Although we paid for it with our tax dollars.
Right, right.
Yeah, I know there are other intersections. Mr. Wolf is correct. I know like Devonshire Heights Road is an intersection I think we're going to have to take a look at.
Right,
And
right.
we have, a matter of fact, the comprehensive plan, I believe, has identified a number of intersections
Right.
that are going to need improvement,
Right.
either with signage or signals.
Right.
So, but this is priority one.
Right. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else who would like to? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Mark Shealy, president of Shealy Homes, the owner of Tuscan Villas Development. And the board has decided to pull the letter of credit to have the roads completed because the homeowners in the development have been demanding that they be completed this year. So I'm asking if I can get till September 20th for us to have the roads paved at that time. We have lot sales that are going to happen before then to allow us to pay to have these roads completed. And it's going to be a lot less expensive if we have it done compared to having the township pay for it.
Well, again, we get to the issue is if it doesn't happen by September 20th, that then doesn't give us the flexibility to go in the road. So, I don't know, does the board have any thoughts or any desire to change the decision that we made last week?
No, I concur. We have no guarantees that it will happen by September the 20th. And we are privy to an email that was sent to Amanda Zerby here on our staff. And in your own statement, you said that lots have been selling very slowly.
Yes.
So again, my concern is that we took the appropriate action because we believe that we have a responsibility to our community and to those homeowners that have been going on for so long. And now you're asking us to extend that to December 20th. What guarantee do we have that it would be accomplished?
At the last meeting, I thought you said 60 days is all that you would allow. I was asking for 90 days too. And I thought 60 days was a reasonable amount of time to still allow you to have it done if I did not have it completed. So I'm just asking to get the 60 days that,
I would address my comment to the chair, and that is, but it's for your benefit as well. If I were to reconsider this, I would want the members of that community to be here. They were here when this was first presented. I would not even want to consider taking action without their presence and perhaps input. That's just my feeling, Mr. Chairman.
I concur. And Mr. Wolf also, I believe, explained that 60 days would be the longest, perhaps, and it would depend on whether our contractor was willing to leave his contract open that long. Correct, Mr. Wolf? Which, I mean, we can check and see if he would, but, and we will do that, but we'll have to move this into, the first meeting in August because per Mr. Chrisman's statement, we wouldn't want to make a change without allowing members of the community to be here.
okay.
So,
And that's what we were trying to get at last meeting, was that we don't want to let it go another year. You heard the people, the residents who live there. So that was our goal, was not to let it go another year, whether or not you do it or we do it. And that was how we're struggling to find the right date and to leave us enough time. And it didn't look like it was gonna happen. If the contractor would extend the time period, then maybe we can do it. I guess we'll have to check, but
Okay.
you heard the people and you heard what we told them, and we just don't want it to go another year.
Okay.
Okay. We will check on how long the and if the contractor's not willing to let it open to that point, then it's pretty much a done deal that we're going to pull the letter of credit.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comment from the public on an item not on our agenda this evening? And I also, I don't know where it went to. What happened to the, here it is. We'll then move to chairman and board member comments, and I would like to recognize Caleb. You're here with Boy Scout Troop 368, correct? Would you like to come to the podium and give us your name and tell us why you're here and what you're doing to earn a Scout Merit Badge?
Yeah, so I am Caleb Mendolia of Troop 368, and I am working on Merit Badge Communications, and one of the requirements is to come to a meeting with, like, supervisors or something like that, and I have to, like, learn about something, about a single issue, and all your points of view on that issue. So that's what I have to do.
What's your single issue?
It could be, like, really anything. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just that I have to get, like, all your points of view on it. It doesn't have to be, like, two people. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're going to be discussing several issues tonight, so you can choose from. And your Scout troop is at Charlton United Methodist Church.
Yeah.
You have a couple members of Charlton United Methodist Church here. So we're very glad to see you. In fact, two of my sons became Eagle Scouts through your troop. So I would encourage you to stick with it. It is a tremendous accomplishment to become an Eagle Scout. So keep working on those merit badges. And as I'm sure your leaders have told you, when you become an Eagle Scout, that says something about you throughout your whole life. And as my sons found out when they applied to college or applied for a job, the moment somebody sees that you're an Eagle Scout, boy, you have a leg up on everybody else. So it's very important that you stick with it, and I hope you get all the way to the top.
Yeah, that's exactly what my dad said.
Well, as I'm sure is usually the case, your dad is right. Which dads tend to be, right? Good. Well, thank you and welcome, and we hope you find the meeting to be interesting.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have scouts with us for our meetings. Would any other members of the board like to make comments?
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Chrisman.
Chairman, I have a couple. First of all, as has been mentioned tonight, the our Arts and Park 5-mile 5K being run by our green team, if you will, has been. This is, I think, the 4th or 5th year we've done it. It has grown since its inception. It's a great activity. I don't know if anyone saw the T-shirts this year, but they were very colorful, and I think it was an excellent event. And I hope we can continue to have more and more people enroll and be part of that program each year. It's a great community activity. And secondly, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just take 5 minutes, if I may, to just share with you that last evening I represented Lower Paxton Township at our Council of Government meetings. And we had two very interesting presentations. In one of them, I'm hoping that Fairmont will be interested in what I have to say, in that it was a projection of where we will be in terms of transportation and of traffic lights. Now, most of us, except for the scout in this room, will probably be around in 2053. But they were discussing that by 2053, we will no longer have traffic lights. And the reason for that is because of all the technology that is now in existence and being developed. They're talking about 5 stages. Many of our automobiles that are being produced today already have the first level. Just simple things like on our side view mirrors when the light comes on because someone is passing us. Or if you cross over the line when you should not be, your car beeps and tells you get back in your lane. And they were discussing those are just some of the first stages that eventually our iPhones and the infrastructure will be talking with the automobiles to the extent that when we go to work in the morning, we will just get into a vehicle, probably have breakfast on the way or read the newspaper or do whatever we need to do. And that because the technology will become so sophisticated that when we approach a traffic intersection, the technology will automatically tell the car whether it will need to stop or pause for other traffic or whether it will that you may continue moving along. Some of this sounds like way out, but I think like everything else, it probably will come to fruition. And one of the things they were showing us was a slide of Broadway in New York City in 1900 where there were just a few automobiles and mostly horse and carriage. 35 years later, they showed the same picture. And in that picture, they showed automobiles with a few horse and carriages. And so technology does continue to move forward. Some of the other things that they talked about, which I thought were interesting points, would be because people will no longer be buying automobiles, and so manufacturers won't need to make cars. We will not need parking lots, and they were suggesting if you were building a parking garage, you may want to consider your architect, asking them how can it be converted by 2035. And also, there'll be less drivers. It will have an impact on the insurance. And they were even predicting that by 2053, people will no longer be buying automobiles. We will all contract for driving services. And the comparison was there when many of us were in business. We used to buy our copy machines. And then what happened? Technology moved so quickly, we decided we didn't want to buy it any longer. We simply rent or contract for the service, and that's what they're going to suggest because they're saying automobiles sit 18 to 19 hours unused in driveways, garages. So you will simply contract for a service, for a pickup, a delivery. When you're finished with that, your vehicle will be there. What they didn't tell me was whether you're paying for a monthly service, a yearly service, or as you need service. But they've also said that Uber and Lyft are well into the development of this technology. That's a lot more than I had planned to give you. I listened to it for probably half an hour to 45 minutes, but it was extremely interesting. The second presentation is, most of us are very familiar with Crime Watch. Crime Watch has now developed new technology that interfaces not only with all social media as well as our municipal governments, with police departments around the U.S. And so they're also now producing this technology so that not only when they put something out that said someone is missing, as soon as that person is located again, it goes back out. They also talk about, and this was way over my head, that in Facebook, this does not interface because on Facebook there's too much fake news, I'm using that term in quotes, being produced on Facebook, and so this will bypass and is totally secure. And so I brought the information back. I'm going to ask Mr. Kashiba just to do a review and an assessment because this may be something that we may be interested in. So I know that's a longer report than perhaps anyone anticipated, Mr. Chairman, but for me, I was fascinated by the technology I don't need to drive any longer.
Well, I recall you being fascinated when they predicted a horseless carriage, so that was...
Exactly.
Wait a minute, I shouldn't have said I recall. That's not
Exactly.
putting me in your... Mr. Judd, do you have anything you would like to add? No, okay. By the way, we're going to still do traffic signals. We're not going to wait for 2053 to have them go by the boards. Mr. Wolf, who is still not enjoying retirement. Do you have a manager's report?
Just one item, board members. As our community is aware, this is the third business meeting of the Board of Supervisors for the month of July. And we have actually 2 more Tuesdays left in July. So the board won't meet again until actually the first week in April, which August. First week in August. I wish it was April. First week in August, and at that time, the board has rescheduled its meeting to Wednesday, August 8th, so that the board can participate in National Night Out on Tuesday, August 7th. Now, National Night Out will be held in George Park beginning at 5 p.m. Will run for approximately 3 hours. And it's an evening where the community can meet with and mingle with first responders, Lower Paxton Township Police Department members, fire department members, and South Central emergency medical personnel, as well as a significant number of other community service providers. The event is always well attended. There is typically some free food and drink, as well as lots of activities for children and actually adults of all ages. So National Night Out will be Tuesday, August 7th in George Park, and then the Board of Supervisors will meet again on Wednesday, August 8th for its first business meeting in August.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Wolf.
that completes my report for this evening.
Thank you, and we hope everyone will join us for National Night Out. It is a tremendous community event. We will now move to old business, and we have change order number 1 to the contract with Appalachia Technology LLC. This involving wireless service installation for our municipal center. Mr. Wolf.
Yes, board members, and if you don't mind, I'll explain number 1 and number 2 together. Number 1 is for the Township Municipal Building, and the change order is in the amount of $6,455.77. The change order is only for additional hardware for wireless access points and licenses. It's been determined that to get the wireless service that's necessary for this building, including our police department vehicles as they pull into the building and dump data, we need additional wireless access points more than what we'd expected. The same is true for Public Works, although not as significant, and that's the second item under old business, also change order number 1, that contract for Public Works and Sewer. Again, additional wireless access points and licenses, and this is in the amount of $3,416.45. There is no additions to the labor rate for the installation. This is purely hardware, and the hardware itself is being purchased through Pennsylvania CoStars, and it is a budgeted item.
So both A and B are under one change order,
There's 2 change orders.
but they're both labeled change order number 1?
Both change. We have 2 contracts.
Okay.
One contract's for the municipal building, and the other contract is for Public Works and Sewer.
Okay, so we have to do 2 separate motions
separate
in order to
motions.
approve.
Okay.
May we have a motion under item A?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I was going to combine both of them.
He just said we have to do 2.
I heard-
I apologize for asking the question because I got an answer you didn't want.
Exactly. So don't ask the question. Now, Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve change order number 1 to the contract with Appalachian Technology for wireless installation in the municipal center. And that one is for, wait a minute, I got to go back to the other one. Sorry. I had already moved on.
$6,455.77.
Yes, $6,455.77 as outlined by Mr. Wolf.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any public comment? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And we will proceed to change order number 1 for the Public Works
Right.
sewer facilities.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve change order number 1 to the Public Works sewer facilities in the amount of $3,416.45 as presented by Mr. Wolf.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chrisman, did you say aye?
Aye.
Okay. There are only 3 of us tonight,
Yes, I understand.
regrettably. So Okay, that takes us to new business, and we have Resolution 1829, authorizing the destruction of specified municipal records. Mr. Wolf, what do we wish to destroy?
Board members, first of all, I'd like to say that, as you're aware, our human resource manager is responsible for records, and we've had the retirement of Dave Hogentogler, and we now have Kay Lingle, who is now our human resource manager. So there's been a period of time where we have been a little bit negligent in destroying documents. At this point in time, we have approximately, and Kay has put this together and is going to see that these documents are destroyed properly if the board so approves. We have approximately 25 boxes of records. There are administrative records, which include employment applications, position postings, recruitments, and resignations. There are finance records for both the sewer department and for Lower Paxton Township, anywhere from accounts payable to accounts receivable to insurance proposals and renewals, public officials' bonds, which are very old, etc. And then we have Friendship Center documents, which include very old expired memberships, Friendship Center guest passes, Friendship Center payroll information. And then finally, in Public Works, we have roadway materials and vehicle sales reports. Again, all these documents are beyond or well beyond their retention period, and they are suitable for destruction in accordance with our municipal policy. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Are there any questions?
Well, and I always like to point out this is done in accordance with state law.
Correct.
Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2018, number 29, authorizing the destruction of the municipal records Mr. Wolf has specified?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2018-29, authorizing the destruction of the specific municipal records as identified by Mr. Wolf.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second?
Any public comment? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That will take us to Resolution 18-30-1. This is getting complicated. This authorizes the submission of an application for a Dauphin County local share grant supporting the next phase of the Heroes Grove project. Mr. Wolf, and
I'm going to explain just one item, board members, the elongated number to the resolution. We will be entering local share season where this Board of Supervisors will be asked to act upon both Lower Paxton Township applications and applications from our community as they're submitted to the Dauphin County Commissioners. Typically, Lower Paxton Township our community and municipality will submit 8 to 10 local share applications. And as a result, to manage the process, we keep them all together in our resolution numbering, and they'll all be 1830s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. This will be, other than the one you're acting upon this evening, the remainder of our local share applications will be part of your August workshop meeting, which will be held on the 14th. And this one is being brought to you this evening because this application is time sensitive based upon other funding that the Heroes Grove project is seeking. So with that, Christine.
Well, thank you. So I'm Christine Hunter with H. Edward Black and Associates representing Heroes Fund, Inc. And as Mr. Wolf mentioned, we are working on funding for Brightbow Park improvements, which is Heroes Grove Phase 3, a welcome center with restrooms and concession, and then partnering with improvements, renovation to an existing playground. We have a grant application in for Act 13, the Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program. In that review, they have requested that we submit our gaming application by the end of this month because we are using that, we're showing that as part of the funding for the entire project. So they would like to see that by the end of this month. So I appreciate your considering this request this month. That's why we're before you now, kind of out of your schedule. But we are submitting a grant application for $200,000. The entire project is $500,000. The playground renovations is somewhere around, well, $90,000 for the township commitment to fund that, to act then as matching funds for the entire project, which helps us as we go for grant funding.
And said dollars were included in the budget for this year.
Well, it'll be,
Well, our share was,
Yes, our share is part of our park improvement budget and it is in our budget.
yes.
Correct. And it
That's-
will be next year as well.
Thank you. That's where I was trying to get to.
Gotcha. Caught me off guard there a second.
Sorry, that's okay.
It's okay.
Do members of the board have any questions or comments?
No, just, I guess, point out the big items for the public would be the Welcome Center at $250,000 and the playground apparatus for $90,000.
Any public comment or questions? Okay, we are prepared for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2018-30-01, which authorizes the submission of the application for Dauphin County Local Share Grant, which supports the next phase of Heroes Grove as presented.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Christine, thank you.
Thank you
have
very
approval.
much.
Appreciate your time this evening. And now we move to subdivision and land development, and we will begin with the final subdivision plan for Stray Winds Farm Phase 5B.
Board members, you have before you this evening the final subdivision plan for 5B. This final phase has been submitted to and reviewed by the Township Planning Commission, who has recommended unanimous approval of the plan. The plan is a mirror image of the preliminary plan, which has previously been approved. Except for one item, there has been a modification which was recommended and approved by the Planning Commission to a part of the proposed sidewalk on Sir Barton Court. Other than that, one minor change. Again, the plan is exactly as previously submitted in the preliminary phase. This action is, if you so choose to take it, is made with 5 administrative comments and 3 general comments. And it's complete for your action this evening. With that, we have a representative from Triple Crown who would like to speak.
Thank you. I'm Matthew Fisher with RJ Fish & Associates, here to represent Triple Crown for Phase 5B, Stray Winds Farms. As George pointed out, this is Phase 5B. We're building 22 dwelling units in this phase. This will be the final phase on the eastern side of Crummins Mill Road, kind of finishing out that section of Stray Winds Farms. We are in receipt of all the technical comments from HRG, the county, and GHD. We don't have any yeah, I know you're going to ask, Gary. We do not have any issues addressing any of those comments. So I believe the main talking point would be regarding the sidewalk waiver that we requested. So we're requesting a waiver of a sidewalk on the northern portion of Sir Barton Court between lots 96 and 97. A couple reasons for this. The main part is the slope for the stormwater basin in that portion comes pretty much right up to the sidewalk. So it's a constructible portion of sidewalk, but definitely not an ideal portion. So in discussing with the Planning Commission, we added turnarounds on the end of the sidewalk, both lots 96 and 97, to kind of denote that, no, we didn't just forget to build that section of sidewalk, kind of to turn around. There are a number of street trees between those 2 lots. A couple other things to point out. With all the phases we've been here for Stray Winds, this is the first waiver we're requesting for a sidewalk. We have been very much in conformance with the preliminary plan to this date. The developer has also put in thousands of feet of walking trail in addition with this plan. And with removing this section of sidewalk, we're really not decreasing the connectivity for lots 96 or 97. They still have a full sidewalk access to other parts of the development. So with that, I'd open it to any further questions that the board has.
Do you have a question?
Sure, I have several. Matt, my first question is, so that it can be recorded, are you authorized to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Okay, question number 2 has to do with the modification. And I assume you have the documents in front of you
Correct.
that I have. Okay, good. In the modification with the waiver request, you see the comment from staff. We support the waiver request under the condition that each end of the sidewalk terminates into a roundabout.
Correct.
You're in agreement with that?
Yes.
Was the right answer. Are you in agreement that the 5 administrative items have either A, been completed, or will be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to the township staff?
Yes.
Under the general comments, there are 3, specifically number 3, which addresses the 17 comments from HRG. The same question is applicable to all 3, and specifically the letter dated July the 2nd, which says, or I'm asking you, are you in compliance, or have you completed, and or will you be willing to complete all of the 17 comments in a fashion acceptable to township staff?
Yes.
Board members, I'd just like to further clarify the modification. As you can see on the plan for Sir Barton Court that I have enlarged, the sidewalks have been eliminated from the parcel, which is the stormwater detention basin, basically because of slope, and there has been a bulb cul-de-sac part of the sidewalk in front of as part of the 2 terminus. That is the only change.
Thank you.
So the land slopes away immediately where the sidewalk would end. There would be a steep slope,
Correct.
which could be hazardous. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Any questions or comments from the public? If not, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I will move for the final move to approve the final subdivision plan for Phase 5B of Stray Winds Farm, with the one modification, which is the waiver request, but with staff's comment that the sidewalk will terminate into a turnaround. The 5 administrative items that need to be addressed and have been confirmed by the developer that they will be, and the 3 general comments, including the letter dated July the 2nd, 2018 from HRG, that they also will be completed by the applicant.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Do you wish to repeat the motion?
No.
No. All in we'd ask for public comment. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Your plan. We also have the preliminary and final subdivision plan for 724 Hampton Court. And what are we doing here, Mr. Wolf?
Board
I see
members,
we
this
have
is an extremely
developer.
simple plan. It's being represented by Tim Malott. But the plan itself is configuring basically existing property. I believe it's 3 existing lots into 3 new lots. Each of the lots, the new lot number 1, will be over 20,000 square feet. Lot number 2 will be over 20,000 square feet. And lot number 3 will be over 20,000 square feet. Previously, not all 3 lots were over that required by our township zoning ordinance of 20,000 square feet. This creates 3 buildable lots. The plan is complete, and there are, let me see, board members, 1 waiver request, that's curbing and sidewalk, which is not present on any portion of Hampton Court Road at this location. There are 4 administrative comments and 3 general comments. Mr. Malott, if you have anything you'd like to add.
That's it, pretty much in a nutshell. I will elaborate. This is the entrance where the improvements were made into the Wilshire Estates, Hampton Court, the extension. So the road we're talking about is actually a 30-foot wide curbed road, and we will be extending the sidewalk along our frontages as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem at all. Your current ordinance is 32. I don't know if they worked a waiver out with you when they built the road, but it's 30 instead of 32. So it is an improved road.
Okay. Are there any board comments or questions? Mr. Chrisman?
You anticipated.
I did.
Mr. Ballat, I assume, and I don't like to assume anything, do you have the documents in front of you so that you can refer to them for my questions?
Yes.
Okay. The waiver request is, the staff is supporting that one, so that's a given. There are 4 administrative comments. The question to you is, have all of those been completed, or will they be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to staff of Lower Paxton Township?
Yes.
And in the general comments, there are 3, specifically number 2, which has 9 comments from HRG. So number 2 specifically with the letter dated July the 6th with the 9 comments, and under the general comments 1 and 3, have they been completed, or will they be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to Lower Paxton Township staff?
Yes, sir.
Can you have,
And the final one is, I noticed on yours too, as I missed it on the other one, that after all the conditions and plans are met, that you will be responsible for recording the plan with Dauphin County Recorder of Deeds and provide the township with 2 recorded copies. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay.
and the road requirement is 32, it's only 2 feet, or you're asking for, just for my,
Yeah, and it actually would only be 1 foot because we're only responsible for our half.
Sure,
So it's,
okay.
you know, and I would
And-
anticipate it was a waiver that was granted with the Wilshire Estates plan because
Okay.
it was only in 2013, I believe, I forget, I'm
Right.
putting a date. I'm not sure. I was trying to find it before the meeting because I anticipated.
well, I
there
mean,
was
just
a-
in general.
Yes, sir.
What, and this might be for George, I mean, why do we waive these at certain times and not my education?
That's a long answer. Different boards have had different opinions on the width of streets. Waivers are granted for various reasons, although primarily based upon specific conditions that are unique to the area. A waiver in this location may have been granted just because it's connecting to an existing neighborhood where the streets aren't as wide as that which we would normally require, and we didn't want to be out of conformance in character between a new neighborhood and an old neighborhood. There are multiple reasons why the board over time has granted waivers or not granted waivers for streets, specifically width, curbing, and sidewalk improvements. And I think each one kind of stands on its own based upon its discussions. There's no specific standard. It's a board position at the time.
Well, and every development's different, and
Correct.
there's public safety, sometimes issues, sometimes not. Okay, that's good. I
If
just-
you don't mind, and they always tell me I talk too much, but just on another, just touching on that, when I look at
Already
it,
heading to approval, so
yeah,
don't talk
but
too
with
much.
that perspective, yeah, you're right.
Don't
You're
talk
right,
past
you're right.
the sale.
Amount of impact, the amount of impact created with a project. If we're creating a bunch of lots, then there's more impact created. We're merely reconfiguring 3 existing lots.
Okay, thank you.
Surely.
With that, is there any public comment or questions? So we do have, you did second the motion, I believe. Yes. What's that? Did he second the motion, or did we go directly to, well, just say second.
Second.
Second,
I didn't
thank
make
you.
the motion, I don't think, did I?
You didn't
I
make
didn't
the
think
motion?
so.
That was
Oh, okay.
previous.
Well, we're even,
He seconded a motion I didn't make.
I'm trying to move this along, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move.
Mr. Chrisman, would you make the motion that Chris just
More
seconded?
than happy to, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the preliminary and final subdivision plan for 724 Hampton Court Plan 1802 with 1 waiver request as identified, 4 administrative comments, and the 3 general comments, specifically including number 2, which is the letter dated July the 6th, 2018 from Jason Hines at HRG, and also the final comment that's not numbered but has to do with the conditions being filed with Dauphin County Recorder of Deeds and being provided 2 copies to the township.
So moved. Now is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you very much.
There you go, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And we have resolution number 1827, this accepting the dedication of streets in Stray Winds Farm Phase 2.
The streets in Phase 1 Stray Winds Farm Phase 2 are complete. They've been inspected by the township engineer and found to meet municipal regulations. We have received the deed of dedication, the release of liens, and the maintenance bond is part of your improvement guarantees to review tonight. So staff recommends that the board accept these streets as part of our public system.
Everything appears to be in order. Any questions from the board? Any public comment? Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to approve Resolution 2018-27?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2018-27, accepting the dedication of the streets in Stray Winds Farm Phase 2 as identified by Mr. Wolf.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There we go. Thank you. And that does bring us to improvement guarantees, development agreements, and plan reaffirmations, et cetera. And we have a
There are
number
10.
of,
A bunch.
yeah. Does the board have any questions regarding any of the proposed improvement guarantees? And I guess they're all improvement guarantees, correct?
Correct.
And I'm not going to go through as I did in the past.
No.
Mr. Wolf, is there anything exceptional? I did not see any, but okay.
All complete for your action this evening, board members.
Then with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 10 listed improvement guarantees as presented.
It has been moved that we approve the 10 listed improvement guarantees. Is there a second?
Second.
It is seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That brings us to the payment of bills for the Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. A legal question, Mr. Stein. Approval of bills for the Lower Paxton Township Authority. We only have 2 members of the board who are members of the authority. Is that sufficient to approve them?
It is because there is a management agreement between the township and the authority.
Okay, thank you for answering that. Therefore, do we have a motion to approve the bills of Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority?
Mr. Judd, would you like to do that as treasurer?
As the proud assistant treasurer of this board, I will move that we approve the payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Treasurer. Is there a second?
I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. There being no other items on the agenda, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.